Welcome back to another episode of the Briefcase in the Barn, a series of the Furious to Curious show where we talk about business, life, Christianity, and more with me and Gary. This is a bonus episode, not bonus, but we're not sure when it's going to get released, so we're going to try to keep it out of the news and more stuff that's relevant to anytime. So, you ready?
Yeah, hard for me to do because there's so many questions I have to everything that was talked about recently.
Oh, okay.
It's all good.
Yeah. Show sponsor, Furiously Curious Coaching. I'll read a testimonial here from Tyler Kemp. Kyle helped me shift my focus to the big picture, hold employees accountable, and address challenges directly. These changes have improved my leadership and created a more efficient, responsible team. Even my wife has noticed the positive impact. Kyle's ability to highlight strengths and tackle weaknesses has been invaluable for both my business and my personal growth. That's from Tyler Kemp. He's the owner of MK Machining in Missouri. It's a 3D printing company. Pretty cool company. One of the biggest 3D printing companies in America. Metal 3D printing and polymers and production 3D printing, and it's really cool stuff.
Who does 3D printing here at a commercial level?
No, but they're crazy big, huge, expensive machines. And yeah, anyways, if you're interested in that, hit me up or go to furiouslycurious.co. Question for you, Gary.
Yeah.
You've often taught me, be broken, weep.
Yeah.
Why do you say that? Why do you
Well, that's a heavy question right out of the gate. Because most of us are just trying desperately to hold it together when inside we're dying, and we'll never, ever, ever be okay if we're not okay with not being okay. So most people are, to some degree, obviously people are very all the way across on the spectrum of emotional health, but most people have some stuff they need to work through, and rather than just be broken before God, they tend to just try harder, cling tighter to their own willpower to figure it out. I mean, we all do it. I do it, even though I know better, even though give lectures to you. It's still very hard to just come to the end of myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're supposed to be in that posture, I think. I think as people, we're healthier when we're that way. And it's funny, this will come out after Freedom Session grad, but one of the things I talked about for people that were graduating was just the idea of like, just be honest, like, just say like, hey, there's some things I'm still really sucking at, but this is the area where God's helped me. And I think that people don't want to do that, even though it's just such a blessing, even to those around them. Like obviously everyone around us in our inner circle knows that we're struggling if we're being at all authentic. Right. So I just think that for you and for me, with our character and how proud we are and how determined we are, we'll often fight when really the best way to win the war is to give up, especially when, we just need to depend on God. And I've had those experiences myself in the last few weeks where I feel like I've run on self-will and then just kind of come to the end of myself and thought, boy, like I'm like literally physically crashing here, like health-wise, because I'm just trying to do too much. And it's not what I'm called to do. I'm not called to do all these things, right? And because I haven't spent enough time praying about it. So I feel like my general sense is that, and I meet so many, mostly guys, obviously basically all guys, at least one-on-one anyways. And they're all just trying to do the right thing. They're trying, like most men want to be a good husband if they're a husband, like most, like even if they're doing horrible things, nobody wants to, I'm a shitty husband.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like nobody's signing up to be that. And vice versa, even as a wife, like most women probably want to be good wives, I would assume, right? I know for sure mine does. And then when they're struggling in an area, if they're not vulnerable about it, quickly, like if you don't let your guard, if you don't think you can trust enough to let your guard down, then pretty soon it's fictitious. The relationship's fictitious, right? So
does being broken or admitting that still scare you? Because I have it that I resist it. Like I the reason I brought it up is in the last week, like I felt myself. I was talking to a guy and I was just really struggling and I could just tell I was just trying to hold on
and not break down. That's just our culture, right?
I think it's our culture. I think just men in general.
Can't speak for other cultures, I guess, but in our culture, most men are not that emotional. And like sadness is like literally just a normal emotion. But like how often are we sad?
Yeah.
Or you just consider it some sign of weakness to be like emotional or sad, or like no, like it's just a beautiful thing. So I don't know. I say I don't do it enough either.
What do you mean? What's enough? Like how often?
Well, it'll be different for every person.
Like just weeping?
Not very often lately, but I sometimes every month or every few weeks. Like if I'm in probably a healthier season where I'm just like more self-aware and just allow myself to get to that spot. obviously there's times you have to hold it together, and there's people that depend on you, and you can't be. But I don't know. Even in our house, sometimes I'll be like, if I'm hanging out with my kids and I'm struggling, I'll be like, man, I just need to have a good cry, right? Like, I don't know. I grew up where I never saw men cry ever.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. So I just think, and why is that? Well, because it's just man up. That's where the term comes from, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean even? Like,
Yeah.
maybe man up means just crying.
Did Jesus not man up when he cried every time? He cried a lot.
Cried a lot. Yeah, he wept, right? So anyways.
Okay.
Be curious to do a poll. I love the polls, right? But I'd be curious to do a poll of men and women listeners, to like the listeners of this podcast. How many people cry once a month or once a year?
I'll do a poll. I'll do it on
do the fork.
Spotify. If you listen to this on Spotify, over half listen on Spotify.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
So go underneath there. And,
this came up yesterday with somebody that had listened randomly. I think they quit listening now, which is fine. But she was asking, the lady was asking, can you see who's on Apple Podcasts? Can you see how many people are listening on that platform? Because you can't see how many times it's been played. Like Spotify, you can say.
Yeah, Spotify, my Spotify, where I upload on Spotify, that pushes it to the other platforms, will tell me what percentages go to Apple, what percentages other like.
So you can see through Spotify actually how many times the Apple podcast listen to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I posted on social media this last week. The question: if you could spend 1 hour with anyone in the world still living, who would you want it to be?
Okay.
What would you answer to that?
Didn't see it, but
if you could spend 1 hour with anybody in the world still living, who would you want it to be?
Probably my wife.
That's
loser.
Not a loser, but
liar.
Liar, yes.
Liar. Oh man. The worst part is she is a listener. So I have to answer for that BS.
Anybody. Like a politician? Would it be like some investor? Would it be like a well-known Christian pastor? Who would you? Anybody?
Lots of different people. I mean, would I like to hang out with Warren Buffett? Yeah, because that'd be interesting, right? The Oracle of Omaha. But I mean, is that the person I'd pick? Probably not.
Yeah. Or I think anybody asking themselves that question, if you're listening to this, ask that question, that person is probably a hero to you, to some degree.
Yeah.
So who do you think your son or daughter would most want to spend 1 hour with tomorrow? And it's especially for me being a dad, it's dads. It's their dad. That's who they'd want to spend an hour with. You've talked to any kid. And it's because we're their hero.
Yeah, it's weird, eh? That's going to change one day.
It is going to change one day, but right now it still is, and it has a huge impact on them. And so
when does that change? Is that basically a teenage thing? Would that be?
I think if you're consistently doing it from childhood on and like nurturing a relationship with them, I don't think it actually changes that much. I think it really has the biggest difference when the parent doesn't foster a relationship with them in the early years, and that later years, it's just like, they're done. But I posted it because I don't want people to forget that a good dad gives his kids what they need most, and that's himself. And the amazing thing is, we are just a picture of that, because that's also what God gives us, is himself. And I posted it because that's what Easter is all about. And then I posted it with the Bible text from Matthew 7:7-11, which is, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. And everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be opened. Or which one of you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? So like if you ask, your kids ask for that. If then you who are evil, us being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? And so I think it was just a good reminder for, first of all, dads, like, spend time with your kids. Like there's no one they would want to spend more time with. Like, we are their heroes, and it gives us the picture of who God is, right? When we spend Freedom Session week 4, I think it is, like when you compare your relationship with your dad and how you view your relationship, that's often how you view your relationship with God the Father. And God the Father gives himself. He gave his life, he gives himself. And so I think it's important that we as dads especially keep doing that with our kids. Thoughts, feedback?
Oh, it'd just be really interesting to see all the people that people suggest that they'd want to hang out with and the reasons why. I mean, the other thing is, how much are you really thinking about it, right? Like, would the answer change if you knew that your parents were going to or anybody was going to pass away in the next week, of course it would, right? Then it would be that person.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, moving on to a couple reels. First one is, are you a Calvinist or are you a Paulist?
Yeah, you're so predictable in the content.
Why?
Well, it reminds me of something else. Play the reel. Let's
Okay.
see.
Are you a Calvinist, John?
If I had the choice between being a Paulist or a Calvinist, I'd choose Paul. When we take these names, I'm a Calvinist, I'm an Arminian, we're taking names that are not common to all Christians. And there's an argument in 1 Corinthians, which I could go through, but the first 4 chapters are devoted to trying to get us weaned off the idea, I am of Paul, I am of Calvin, I am of Luther, because it's something less than Christ. If people ask you that kind of question and you simply say, I am or I am not, but you haven't discussed anything biblical. So what I would answer to that question is, I say, what aspect of Calvinism would you like to discuss? And then we get into it.
Great clip.
Is it what you expected?
It wasn't what I expected.
I wasn't trying to stir the pot at all.
Don't like the music in the clips, eh?
No, I hate that too.
Just
And
drives me bonkers. Why do you play this weird music? Like, just have the guy talk, man.
Yes.
Speaking wisdom.
Yeah. I think hopefully I can.
Who is the guy talking?
The guy's from the UK, and he's like an apologist of some sort. I forgot his name. John Lennon, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah. John Lennox maybe. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I think it's a good point. And the scripture he's referring to is I think somewhere in.
Well, it's because they already did it back then, right?
Yeah.
In the early church, they were pitting sides and taking people. I follow this guy. Totally makes sense. Human nature.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
And labels go so fast. I noticed that I published my podcast with Maxime Bernier this week.
Yeah.
And my on Facebook, the amount of comments I'm getting, like really angry comments that I even had this interview.
Oh wow. Why is that?
Because they're scared that it's going to make the Liberals go in. Any attention on the BBC is going to split the vote, right?
Oh wow.
And but we talked about that on the podcast, and if you actually listen to the whole thing, you'll get a different view. But people don't listen to it; they see the headline and they comment, and I think that's often what happens again with these labels in Christianity as well. Like you don't actually have a discussion. You're just taking the label and run with it.
Yeah, I really struggle with those terms. And I struggle with any of the, I guess to me, any time that someone's taking, like I've read quite a bit of Calvin stuff now, and like we have books and stuff in our house from him, and like even the idea of my idea of what he stood for is completely shattered by what he writes in his books. So it's like when you get this weird paradox going on where it's like, no, this is not even my idea of, or how it was framed in my mind, how I perceived it is not true. And so there you go. I mean, his main thing is just read your Bible, right? So, I mean, you just quoted Matthew. What was that? Matthew 18 or stay in the word. Okay.
Next one is the real difference between, it said in the clip, it's Mexicans versus Americans, but I think it's Mexicans versus like North American culture. So.
And this guy said to me, he said, you know what the biggest difference between you Americans and us Mexicans are? And I said, no, what? He said, we only sleep in our houses. He said, if we're not asleep, we're out. We're either at church or we're having coffee with friends or we're doing something communally. He said, the American dream is to have everything you could possibly need in your house so you will never have to leave it. DoorDash will bring you your food. You'll have your own movie theater there. You'll have your own commercial kitchen. You'll have your own workout gym. You'll have everything in a self-sustained house so you'll never have to ever leave your house and deal with any other people.
It's a great clip.
I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It's funny how, because of the culture, and talking North American culture here, you grew up in, it's really easy to assume that that's normal or the best culture or whatever, because of that's what you're most used to. When you hear a clip like that and you realize, oh, like is
that the case though, or is it more just when people get to a certain level of wealth where they're building big houses and they're putting everything self-sustaining? Usually, I guess my question would be, if you're a wealthy Mexican, are you not building a big house where you have all the stuff in your own house and don't have to leave either?
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just wondering if that's maybe a little more relevant.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. But regardless, it still is, I think, I would say in more South American culture, like community is valued a lot more. Like elders are respected a lot more, and those types of things. And I think it's just a good reminder of like, hey, our happiness is not going to be, if it's outside of Christ, is not going to be found in just more stuff or being more alone and more self-sustaining. But there's so much power in community and being together and being able to receive gifts and love and be able to give it and not be so isolated.
I wonder too, to what extent, I mean, there's probably so many factors that play into it, but you think of even, I'm just thinking of like, you know, maybe my wife uses Instacart or something, right? Which I despise because I want to save it. Instacart, you know, like where you get the groceries delivered. Have you heard
Oh,
of,
okay,
you know,
yeah.
Same thing as DoorDash that he mentioned in the clip. Same idea, but just
Okay,
different.
okay.
But I wonder if that, you know, her thing would be, well, you know, I don't want to go take 3 kids 4 and under into the store and fight, you know, wait in line and have somebody deliver it, right? I'm like, hey, like, let's save the $17.45 and let's have you suffer over there in the store, right? That's kind of,
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like,
or maybe someone in the community helps.
yeah, fair enough. I guess I always just feel like it's a money thing, which is not totally about that. And I'm an extrovert, so I'm always thinking when I hear a clip like that, I'm like, oh no, it's just the introverts that want to stay home. But even me, like if I had a choice between working out in my garage at home, which is what I do, or going to the gym, I'm working out in my garage at home. I just have no desire to go like work out with other people in a big building where like that's just, to me, that's weird.
Yeah.
Even though it's obviously normal because a lot of people do it, but it's just not my comfort zone. Even though I could go anywhere and probably talk to anybody in a different setting.
Yeah.
But I think that we just live in a super, like I feel it's very connected to the level of judgment that's in our culture and where people are always feeling judged. And like it's that idea of when something bad happens now, it's always just pull out your phone and video it. Like not help, not like get involved.
Yeah.
Like I had it, I don't know if I shared this story on here, but I had it where I was sitting at the McDonald's one time with my kids in my truck and some people started fighting. So I went and got involved and broke up the fight. And everybody in the drive-through lineup, like there's like 10 cars there. This is in Harlem in downtown Chilliwack. And they're all just videoing out their window where I'm like, you know, getting abused, right?
Yeah.
I walk back to my car looking at these people like, I'm like, what are you guys, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So I do think there's this, it's our bit of our culture where it's just like, we just live in and is that North American? Is that Western? Or is that just entitled? Is that apathetic? Is it the same reason that only 50 to 60% of people vote, even less in a municipal election where people just don't care? They don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Is it because we've had it too good for too long? Probably. That would be my assumption. I just think that hard times need to come and they are going to come. And
yeah, I think it's a whole bunch of factors.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think that I think we've talked about it before, but about like in the 70s when you asked a celebrity a question publicly, they would probably give you exactly what they thought as their answer because it wasn't being filmed and I'm like probably going to get published all over the world.
And now like people
and now
are so that's kind of where it's going.
Now literally everything goes online, so people are so cautious,
paranoid. Nobody speaks truth.
If you don't get it perfect,
you're canceled.
You're roasted. Yeah.
How come we haven't been canceled yet? We're due.
I do not care.
You can't cancel God.
I do not care.
I cancel myself.
Yes, that's your biggest problem. Okay, I got a question for you. Should Christians tithe on gross or net?
Oh my. This is really interesting because when you asked the question earlier in the podcast about who would I like to meet, and I didn't spit it out in the moment, but I was thinking of it after. My thought was the guy that wrote Money, Possessions, and Eternity.
Oh, Randy Alcorn.
Randy Alcorn. And I don't know if I plugged this book already.
Yeah.
Marie just finished reading it. I'm a little way through it, and I need to read the rest of it, but we had a good discussion about it last night.
And if you need the really short version, it's called The Treasury Principle. And it's one of the ones I might want to read after Gentle and Lowly. But.
Okay. Yeah, probably be good to go there. So, anyways.
Okay.
There's no kind of answer to that. There's no answer. He would say, and I don't want to butcher what he's going to say, but I struggle even saying this. You know, I was going to say wealthy people should obviously give more than 10%, and maybe if you're less wealthy, you should give less.
Yeah.
But nobody thinks they're wealthy. For sure, the wealthy people don't.
You don't think you're wealthy?
No. People don't. Nobody has enough, right? Like it's always this fear. That's what I was saying to Marie last night. Because one of my thoughts was, this is another discussion that Marie and I have, and I think we're pretty aligned. But for sure, like me and my lawyer didn't agree because I was working on our estate planning and like just a will. a basic will, and I wanted to like talk about giving very little to our kids. Like, just not going to do this big, like nobody's getting a fat check after we die, whenever that might be, whether it be next year or in 20 years. And he's like, oh, it's against the law. Like, your will be contested. Like, if you had $10 million, let's say, or $1 million or whatever the number was, and you gave 90% of it to charity and 10% to your kids could contest that and get more of the money. That was and there again, there's probably lawyers, like smarter people than me listening to this, that might say, oh, that's not true. But that was what I was told. And so anyways, where I was going with that whole concept was that I have felt like, personally, I can play the tape all the way through. I'm relatively intelligent. I'm thinking, well, if I think that way, why would I not just be giving away the 90% now while I'm alive? Like, why? And then the second thought is, what about if I don't have enough? What about if there's not enough left? Right. Yeah. And it's this, so that's the heart. That's my heart issue. And that's the part that Randy goes after in the book.
Yeah. I think we would love if the Bible explicitly told us.
Yeah, so we could check the box, but that's not how Christian life is. Everything is a hard issue, pretty much. So yeah.
So I did pull up 2 Bible texts to share after this. Yeah. So 2 Corinthians 9:7-9. You must each decide in your heart how much to give. And don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, for God loves a person who gives cheerfully, and God's will generously provides all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. As the scriptures say, they share freely and give generously to the poor. Their good deeds will be remembered forever. So I thought that was just a good reminder of just like, hey, it's like, where's your heart at? Give cheerfully. God will provide for you. Don't worry. But then also, there's another verse where Jesus is talking to the Pharisees who did everything perfectly, right? And so they probably tithed on their gross. And he says, what sorrow awaits you, teachers of the religious law, and you Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you are careful to tithe even the tiniest income from your herb gardens, but you ignore the most important aspects of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. You should tithe, yes, but do not neglect the more important things. That's Matthew 23:23. And so I think, our temptation is, to check boxes, which I think is what the Pharisees were doing there. And he's like, no, that's not the point. Like, you're not even like, your heart's not even for the poor. You're just doing it because you're supposed to.
Yeah, it is interesting because I don't remember the concept there. Again, I mean, there's people that would be able to challenge me on this, but I don't remember. Like, I'm sure there were sermons when I was a kid on like giving and maybe tithing even, but I don't remember it. And it'd be interesting to know. I mean, I guess I always look at I don't know if it's public knowledge, like a budget at a church, like at my parents' church, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Is it public
for the
knowledge?
Members, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, those numbers should be astronomical based on the amount of wealth in the church, right? And my assumption is that they're not. And so I always think, hey, like, where are people in their minds on that? And like Marie and I said, I mean, people have all kinds of weird ways of justifying how they do things. They either do like an annual amount that's in their mind pretty large and that takes care of it, or they would, for me, it might be like, well, maybe I'll separate my business from my personal. Hey, we don't get paid a lot of personal income, so we just tithe on that, and it's, a relatively small amount. I think it's really the reason that I think Randy does a great job is in that book is because we'll always put ourselves in a spot where we want it. Like, we can literally justify anything. We justify way worse things than not tithing in our life, way worse sin. So, we'll definitely justify not being generous. And like, in my heart, that's probably one of my biggest idols is wealth, right? So it's like, it'll be the thing that I'll protect the most and I'll just duck for cover. And so it's my personal journey, but I should be allowed, and Maria asks the tough questions because she knows my heart, right? She's like, hey, what do you think about this? Or she asks like, well, what is the total number and what does that look like? And I don't know. I think that most of us, it would come from lack of trust. For me, it would come from lack of trust. And in the areas where I have been generous, I've been shown again and again how I can trust. And that's been really special. And there again, I mean, it's the left hand, right hand thing, right? Yeah. So, I mean.
And I was like, it's like we have to continually remember that everything we have is a gift. And so in that verse, it talks about later in the first verse I read about how, like, who makes the plants grow? Like, who has given us?
We do not live that way, though. None of us live that way.
I know it's not, but I think that's important to remember. It's just like, it's not our money in the first place. He's like, God has asked us to steward it. He doesn't ask us to, like, he say, okay, yeah, give me 10% and the 90% you can use on you spend on yourself. No, he's like, this is steward it, like, just like all the other gifts. So. Okay. Another question. How often should couples have sex?
Oh my. No comment.
No comment?
No comment.
So I asked Nicole before we recorded because I told her we are going to answer this question today. And she's like, every day. And then I'm like, every day? That's what I can say on the podcast? She goes, well, I didn't know it was going to be the podcast. I'm like, well, what can I say? And she's like, well, frequently. And I think that's a good answer. But I think
just like you tithe. Just like your generosity.
Yeah, but I think it's something that is easy, especially when you have kids and you get older, whatever. It's easy to neglect, and I think it is just really healthy for a good marriage. And if you're not having it a lot, it puts you into temptation as well. And so I got one verse for that: 1 Corinthians 7:5. Do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time, so you can give yourselves more completely to prayer. Which is that in itself is wild. This is like, hey, let's not do it for a while so we can pray more. Like, when's the last time someone had a conversation like that? But it says, afterwards, you should come together again so that Satan won't be able to tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
I mean, when you read that, my thought is that most couples should probably be way more concerned about how much they pray together rather than how much they have sex. So,
you and Marie pray together a lot?
Not enough. That's what made me think of it.
Okay. How often?
It really comes and goes. The more we're struggling, the more we pray. It's really bad.
And the more you struggle, the more you pray, the less you pray. No,
the more we pray. When we're in rough shape, we'll pray together for sure.
Yeah, we do it before we go to bed every night.
Yeah, that's a great habit.
Usually in bed. I'm just like more and more. I feel scared if I don't.
Good for you. Do you guys have your phones in your bedroom or not?
No,
no phones in the bedroom. Okay, you got a lot of good habits.
No, and I still got a lot of problems.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, that's all I had.
Did not answer the question. I could go on a monologue about it, right?
Well, go on a monologue, man. Why not?
No.
Why not? Okay, can you explain why you don't want to go on the monologue?
Yeah, I can do that. Because I think everybody's in such a different spot. It's very similar to if you start giving a sermon about something like that, you better be very prepared and you better cover all the angles. And
Dave Curry on. And
somebody really wise that's dealing with stuff all the time. But first of all, even the verse you read is completely manipulated by, for sure, Christian men, maybe Christian women too, but for sure Christian men.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So be scared to read.
Forcing.
Yeah, it's just and the thing is, I've been convicted of this because I've often, never given my wife the attention she deserves or pour into her emotionally, and then have some type of expectations in other ways, and it's total BS. And I would say that a lot of men fall. I'm probably not the only guy that falls in that camp, right? And so I think that. I want to be a good husband, and I should be way more concerned about meeting all my wife's needs before mine are met, because that would be being Christ-like. And literally, this is the verse I say to guys when they're ranting at me about stuff like this. I would say, there's a command for you, and it's to be like Christ. And he literally, as a perfect man, got on the cross and died. So have you done that, right? Yeah. Have you done that? Yeah. And it's most men haven't. Most men are just, and whatever, it's human nature. I get it. We're all in the human being tour, right? Yeah. So, and there again, it's not even, I don't even like saying that, because sometimes it's the guy that doesn't want to have any sex and the woman does. So those are, like I say, you can quickly just paint yourself into a corner of, hey, you're there's people that are literally being abused in their marriage. There's other people that are just not meeting their spouse's needs and should be, and they need to be convicted. So it's all the camps.
It's all over the place.
And I just feel you get into these, I think it's a situation where if somebody is really feeling like their needs aren't met, they should be insisting that they go to marriage counseling and get help, right? Or meeting with their pastor, or meeting with whoever, or another couple. Everybody struggles in some way. Marie's really good at acknowledging that too in our life, where it's we're not the only ones that have issues.
I think for me, the wounds of my past growing up and just not being able to connect, being desperate fear of connection, and for Nicole had her own stuff as well. It was something that I think we were just also taught really badly about, sex in general. It was just
little communication, so little.
Matt,
it was just from the era we're in, right? From the generation we're in.
That too, yeah. And it's not just Reform circles, it's even evangelical circles. And there's a book that me and Nicole are reading together. So we read one chapter or a couple pages a day. Haven't done a lot of it lately, but called The Great Sex Rescue by Sheila Ray Georgie. But the lies you've been taught and how to recover from what God intended. And so if you're interested in learning about that, it's a really, really good book. And they've actually done a whole bunch of research on all the other books the previous 20 years that evangelicals have put out on sex, and how a lot of things have been taught wrong, and their reasons for it, and they had did huge polls on the reasons why people weren't, and so yeah, it's a really good book. Dave Curry recommended it to me, and so.
I mean, one of the other things I would say, the reasons it is important to talk about it is because that our culture is just completely filled with it, and people secretly are obsessed with it. So it's like, well, you have this whole.
That is weird. You're right.
It's bizarre, right? Like people.
We don't talk about it, but it's
everywhere, right? And it's like, no, it's this whole hidden thing where people live in secret, and like I've experienced it now for personally myself struggling, and then watching other people, and it's like, but it's like so awkward to talk. It's like, no, like you have all these weird things going on in your own private life. It's like, why would we not be talking?
We're all seeking money, sex, and power, and no one wants to talk about money, sex, and power.
For sure, not sex. The power and money, maybe, but yeah. I mean, the other thing I always think of too, because it's like everybody's in a different season of life, right? But it needs to be talked about as a couple in a healthy way. And there again, back to my old plugging the marriage meeting, but like that's where if we have conversations about it, it happens in a healthy way where it's like not at the worst possible moment, which is typically what happens in a marriage often if you don't have structured times to talk about things.
When me and Nicole were really going through the ringer, Dave Curry gave us a little sheet that we had to answer every day. It was like 5 questions. We both had to answer every single day, and it was really pushing not sex necessarily, but emotional connection, because of how important that is for healthy sex, and that it's not just just an act, physical act, but it's much more than that.
I feel like we need to stop now.
I'll have Curry on.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we're going to end on that note.
Okay, that's where we're going to end.
End on a high note.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. Appreciate it. If you have any comments about today's episode or anything else, feel free to comment those down below. Love the feedback, or send them in at furiouslycurious.co. That's my coaching website, but I have a little on my feedback form there. You can send things in anonymously as well.
Is it actually anonymous?
Yes. I do not see it.
Do we have people send stuff in on there?
I haven't.
Does it say right in there, this is an anonymous?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Give them the option.
You have to really trust you.
Yeah. I mean,
that's all you can do. People don't, right? People don't trust.
Whatever. Just wanted to give the option.
I don't trust anybody. Paranoid.
Anyway, so yeah, if you have feedback, send that in. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Appreciate it. Till next time.